Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the powerful lessons from a novel called The Frozen River. Now, this is historical fiction, but it's actually based on the real diary of an 18th century woman. And her story, well, it holds some surprisingly relevant lessons about justice, truth, and courage that feel very much for today. So let's dive right in.
Okay, I want you to picture this. The year is 1789, just after the American Revolution. We're in Hallowell, Maine, a small, pretty isolated community, and it is locked in the brutal grip of a New England winter. You can feel the sharp air, the snow is piled high, and the Kennebec River, it's frozen solid.
And then, something happens that just shatters that winter quiet. A local man is found dead, his body perfectly preserved inside the ice. And this, well, it isn't just a tragedy. It's the spark that ignites a mystery, one that's going to expose all the fractures and all the secrets hiding just under the surface of this town. And right at the center of it all is one pretty remarkable woman.
So, meet Martha Ballard. Now, she's not a detective. She's not a lawyer. In the eyes of the law back then, she has zero formal power. But as the town's midwife and healer, she knows things. She knows everyone's secrets, and more importantly, she has this fierce moral clarity and is absolutely determined to find out what really happened, especially when the death is tied to a really shocking accusation of sexual assault.
So this brings us to our first section, a body in the ice. This is really where the central conflict of the story kicks off.
There's this great description of the story. It's called A Tale of One Woman's Moral Clarity in a World Built to Silence Her. And that's the absolute key. This isn't just a whodunit. It's also a courtroom drama. It's an incredible piece of women's history. But at its very heart, it's about one person fighting to be heard in a society that is literally designed to ignore her.
And that fight, well, that brings us right to our next point. One woman against the system. Because Martha wasn't just up against the potential killer. She was confronting the entire social structure of her time.
I mean, think about what she was facing. The forces pushing back against the truth were immense. The men accused of the crime weren't outsiders. They were powerful, prominent figures in town. The justice system itself, totally biased, built to value their word over anyone else's, especially a woman's. And on top of all that, you just have the messy politics of a small town, old grudges, favors owed, all of it creating this web of silence to just bury what really happened.
And the community itself? It plays this really complicated two-sided role. On the one hand, you've got this incredible power of support. The bonds between the women in particular gave Martha strength. But on the other hand, you have the crushing pressure of community silence. That same group of people could demand conformity, pushing everyone to just look the other way, to keep the peace, even if it meant justice got thrown out the window.
So this really boils down to the central question of the whole story. When the scales of justice are already tipped against you, when all the powerful voices are trying to drown you out, and when your own neighbors are pressuring you to just be quiet, what can one person possibly do?
And that leads us perfectly into Section 3, the power of a voice. This is all about how Martha fought back, not with weapons, not with money, but with something far, far more powerful.
Martha Ballard's greatest tool was her diary. And there's a line that captures this perfectly. My diary is more than a record. It is my testimony. It is proof that my voice matters. You see, it wasn't just a log of her day-to-day life. It was her unwavering account of births, deaths, who paid her what, and crucially, the evidence she uncovered. That diary, it became her proof. It became her power.
So how does she turn that knowledge into real power? Well, it's this simple but kind of brilliant three-step process. First, it all starts with meticulous observation, something her job as a midwife demanded every single day. That led to step 2, detailed record-keeping in her diary. And all those records taken together built the foundation for an unshakable testimony. She didn't have a fancy title, but she had facts, and that gave her an authority that even the town's most powerful men just couldn't ignore. And this reveals one of the most powerful ideas in the whole story. That when other people are actively trying to erase the truth, the simple act of bearing witness, of just observing and recording what you see, that in itself is a revolutionary act. It is a quiet but incredibly powerful form of resistance.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together in our final section. A legacy in the details. What's the real, long-term impact of Martha Ballard's quiet, determined fight for the truth?
The story shows us two very different kinds of strength. On one side, you have loud authority. This is the power of the judges, the wealthy landowners, the established institutions. It's a power that demands to be heard. But on the other side, you have Martha's quiet conviction. This is the strength that comes from moral clarity, from persistence, from integrity. It doesn't demand anything, it earns the right to be believed.
So Martha's story leaves us with some really essential lessons. It shows us that finding the truth requires real courage. It reminds us that the experiences of women aren't just side stories, they are vital history. And it makes it clear that justice is never just handed to you. It has to be actively fought for. And maybe the most important lesson of all is that a real legacy isn't usually built in some grand gesture. It's built in the small, moral choices we make day in and day out.
And we'll end on this thought. Martha Ballard's incredible story only survived because she wrote it down day after day. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just what happens, it's what gets recorded, what gets remembered, what gets passed on. So it leaves us with a question for our own time. Whose story will you help preserve?